All right, Chris, go ahead.
You're the one that does the intros. We have jobs, man.
I know, but you always just sort of cut in line before I ever do intros. I just expected it today.
I was being respectful.
Well, all right. So yeah, we're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Jay, joined with my co-host Christopher, Kristian, and Dan. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hello there.
All right, then.
Close enough.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There you go. Now it's your turn.
Okay. So, I didn't get the chance to play any D&D this week. My car was in the shop, so I couldn't go to Adventures League. Just got to go back to the shop for a different issue. I'm batting 1,000 with my vehicle. I didn't get to play D&D this weekend. My live stream that we have. By the way, where can they find our live stream, Kristian?
You can find us on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, or whatever other platform you use to get your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube, which will just be the sound of our voices and maybe some clips from Twitch. I don't know what's on our YouTube. But you can also find us on Twitch TV. Grumpy Dungeon Masters, where Chris streams his game on Saturdays.
Yep.
That's
Saturdays, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, find us playing, or some amount of us playing some sort of video game.
Usually D&D related,
or some game, some role play-esque game usually.
So I was playing a tangential role-playing game for D&D this weekend. I was playing D&D, The Puzzle. Darkest Underdark is the set that I got. I got it for Christmas this year. And let me tell you what, getting the kid and the wife to want to put a puzzle together, never going to happen again in my house. So what I really like about this product, though, this D&D puzzle, is as you put it together, there's a little adventure story that kind of goes along with it. And there's quote-unquote random encounters that you can pull out of a bag to fill in some of the squares or some of the puzzle pieces with those random encounters, and that helps tell a better story. Okay? So I'm going to lead you through the story real quick. There's two paths to the story, a red path and a blue path. I'm going to have you guys pick a path you guys want to follow. And I want you guys, as we go along this adventure, to kind of guess what the CR or what the average level of the party is as they go through these challenges. Okay?
Go for it.
So it starts off in bag 1. The party is asleep in their beds after an exciting night at the Ivy Mansion. Suddenly, they are jolted awake as a chasm opens beneath them and they tumble into the Underdark. The adventurers land in a goblin village threatened by spiders. They ally with the goblins, turning the tide against their arachnid attackers. 2 glowing paths appear in the darkness. To battle the Yachtchol Demon Lord on the red path, the party sorcerer conjures a cloud of daggers. Along the blue path, the bard spies a piercer and roper disguises rocks and inspires bravery in the party. So, how strong is this party right from the jump?
Oh my god. Well, cloud of daggers. That's what, first level?
Yeah.
So yeah, probably first or second level. I heard a yokel in there, which is going to kill an entire party of second level characters.
But they beat it. So
okay, so they're higher than that.
With just cloud of daggers.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So a yokel, look it up here real quick. A yokel is
CR10.
CR10, Jesus. And ropers aren't, that low, but they're not 10.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Roper CR5.
Yeah. So you guys want to go down the red path or the blue path?
We killed a yokel with cloud of daggers, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
Red path?
Red path.
All right. Going down the red path. By the way, the random encounters that I pulled in putting this puzzle together was a mimic and a treasure chest full of gold.
Same thing, right?
Yeah, same thing. So going down the red path, the adventurers follow the red path into abandoned dwarven mines where carrion crawlers and grell lurk. An Umberhawk collapses a tunnel with its claws, trapping the party. Worse, a beholder and 2 gazer minions are waiting to pounce. The barbarian's rage holds them off as the others search for a way out. another CR10 monster there with the beholder and everything.
And 2 gazers. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing terrible. Nothing horrific, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Still, they probably haven't leveled up because they can beat a yokel, they can beat a beholder.
Yeah.
I believe my random encounters for this on this tile was meeting Dritz Duerden and fighting a displacer beast.
Of course, it was meeting Drist
Uh,
in the Underdark again.
Continue.
So, going further down the red path, the red path leads to an illithid colony crawling with intellect devours, mind flayers, and an elder brain. The bard counters the psionic abilities with confusion, while the rogue prepares a sneak attack on the colony's elder brain. Ooh, they're gonna beat an elder brain with a sneak attack.
Can it even be backstabbed?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Does it even have a back?
Well, it's got a brain stem that connects to the spine. When it's got a spine, it's got a back.
Yeah.
So that's the
backstabbed
CR14.
the book.
So in the picture, they're fighting 4 intellect devours, or 4 mind flayers, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 intellect devours. That's a pretty big fight.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So the last page, we follow just the red path. The paths converge in the city of spiders, Menzoberranzan. There, the party battles Driders as matron mother Benray.
Yeah. Nobody knows how it's actually pronounced.
Benray and Archmaid Gomph summon the vile spider goddess Lolth. Jaraxel, renegade of House Benray, helps the party evade his family's troops. Look, there's a way out. The wizard Harkol Harpel opens a portal back to the Ivy Mansion, and Dritz, Canterbury, Guinevere, Regis, and Penelope Harpel leap through. The heroes banish Lolth back into the demon web and escape to the surface. The material plane is safe for now. Ooh.
Oh my god.
And there's no random encounters in the final one. So what do you think the party's level has to be to get down here and banish Lolth back to the demon web?
I mean, you're talking epic level or borderline epic level characters.
Right. They just fell through a hole from an inn into the Underdark.
Yeah, they live in the Ivy Mansion. I mean, they got money. They're rich. They got magic items. They were probably adventurers who had mostly retired, and I don't know, maybe Lolth wanted revenge on them.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there a stat block for Lolth?
I hope not.
Probably.
Yeah.
D&D makes stat blocks for everything.
There's a stat block for Lolth back in fucking Monster Manual, man.
There's old ones, yeah, but I don't know if there is for 5e.
I don't see one for 5e. Huh.
Well, probably not yet, no.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, if you would have taken the blue path, all right, the blue path, so you beat up a roper and a CR10 demon, and then the blue path is you find this like Myconid colony, and the Myconid colony is being taken over by demons and a drow wizard. And the drow wizard summoned the Demogorgon to the plane. So you go from fighting a roper to having to stop a Demogorgon, which, nigh impossible.
Yeah, not much difference there. Same thing, right?
You just need a psychic kid. It's fine.
But I just kind of love going through this little puzzle and just like playing through like their little tiny adventure, going, God damn, this party is fucking baller. Yeah. No one died. No talks of resurrection. Somehow the barbarian just going into a rage kills a beholder somehow. I don't know. And the best part is too is like each of these pieces that are on the thing, like you could actually flip over and like put like the dead variant of the monster there if you wanted to. So like there's like a dead beholder, there's like Lolth being swallowed up back into the demon web and stuff like that. So it was really kind of cute. It was it was fun for me to do. It took all of like today and a little bit of yesterday to kind of get it all done. But
Yeah, it's a 1,000-piece puzzle. Looks like so.
yeah, it was nice. Like it's like each bag was a separate part of the puzzle and all kind of fits together in the end. So it was kind of neat. Not your average just square puzzle. It didn't work that way. So it was fun. The party, man, Jesus, it's like a single day. They fall into the Underdark, and they're just stopping Lol from coming to the plane. Just your average Tuesday, I guess.
Yeah,
And that's all. That's all I did D&D related this week.
That's more than I got to do. There was no tabletop games this weekend, sadly, because people were off doing other things. So I wanted to talk briefly about the idea of, we've talked about it before, of crunchiness in a system. And the reason I want to bring this up is because Chris, a couple of weeks ago, me and Kristian were talking to you about it, and you had the idea that like Shadow Dark and DCC were crunchy in comparison to say 5e, which is absolutely not my definition of it. It's not Kristian's definition. I'm pretty sure it's not Dan's. So I got to thinking about it. What actually makes a system, quote, crunchy? And I think there's two things that sort of make a game crunchy. One is character builds. Like, can your players build absolute ridiculous characters by min-maxing? And the other one is how much leeway the game master has on rulings. So, like, crunchiness isn't necessarily defined by the system itself so much as what you can do in the system. 5e, I consider a pretty crunchy system just because your players, while the system works great, it's real easy. Your players can say, okay, I'm going to take 2 levels of this, 2 levels of that, 5 levels of this, and I'm going to be doing 100 damage around consistently. Non-crunchy systems will never have that. Shadow Dark and DCC are the primary ones I think about, because Shadow Dark, when you level up, you're the same class you were. Every odd level, you get a random ability that you have no control over. You don't think about it. You just roll some dice and you get whatever it is. DCC at first level, you get everything you're ever going to be able to do, unless you're a spellcaster, and then you get spells as you level up. But otherwise, that's it. You don't get anything else at second, third, fourth, other more hit points. Does anyone disagree with that statement?
No, I think that sounds pretty good to me. I would say my add-on would be, I think the more the rules define almost any conceivable action you can take in the game, the crunchier it gets.
Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
You find rules light systems that try to let the players and GM have some leeway as to what makes sense in the situation, and just kind of it trusts your players and your GM to be able to figure out things like, how should I jump across a pit, and like, I don't need to define the rule for exactly what you have to roll to jump how many feet and all that. It just says, you guys will figure it out. It probably has to do with strength, but you figure it out as you go, and you trust in your players and GM, as opposed to a game that has to define Pathfinder, D&D, modern D&D, that wanted to define every aspect of every kind of action or interaction you could take is covered by a rule. And that way it's more of a, hey, somebody that knows the rules really well is just saying, I can do this because the rules say I can.
Yeah, that's the leeway on rulings, the second part of it that I was talking about.
Mhm.
Just as an example, I had this pulled up. I'm going to look at the Pass Wall spell in Shadow Dark and 5e. Pass Wall in Shadow Dark, it's 5 rounds, range is close. A tunnel of your height opens in a barrier you touch and lasts for the duration. The passage can be up to near distance in length and must be in a straight line. That's the entirety of that spell. And the 5e version of it, Pass Wall, A passage appears at a point of your choice that you can see on a wooden, plaster, or stone surface, such as a wall, a ceiling, or a floor. So already out of the gate, they're giving you, these are the limitations of this. This is all it can do. It lasts for the duration. You choose the opening's dimensions up to 5 feet wide, 8 feet tall, 20 foot deep. Passage creates no instability in a structure surrounding it. When the opening disappears, any creatures or objects still in the passage created by the spell are safely ejected to an unoccupied space nearest to the surface on which you can cast the spell, or which you cast the spell. So it's giving you just all of these. Can't be any bigger than this. Nobody takes damage when the thing closes. It can only be cast on doors, walls, etc. So it's putting a lot of hard limitations. Where Shadow Dark is very clean and simple. It's just, hey, you can cast this. Can't be bigger than you are. Have at it. Last for 5 rounds.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Yeah. So that's sort of what I think defines the term crunchiness. First edition, second edition, yeah, they've got Thaco, which is weird. Rollmaster has charts upon charts upon charts. Rollmaster may not be a good example, actually. I don't know what crazy characters you could build in that, but like first edition D&D, man, you're not going to be ridiculously overpowered because you can't build ridiculously overpowered.
Rollmaster, you can't really build ridiculously overpowered characters. Everybody has basically a very similar pool of development points to spend, and everything is skill based. So even a mage needs to basically super specialize to be good at something. You can't just learn a bunch of spells and be like, oh, I'm good at all of them. No, you actually have to specialize in which spells and which spell attacks you end up using. So like a mage that magician that just learned lightning bolt is only going to be okay at it because he's probably very well trained into shock bolt, which is basically a very minor version of lightning bolt. Think of like a cantrip. It's like shocking grasp, basically, because it's ranged. But he's gonna have to spend a bunch of points in order to get into it, and you can typically only develop a skill once or twice a level. So it has a kind of a built-in way to prevent people from basically twinking out. Like there's no super important skill or ability that every fighter has or every mage has, for example.
Right. You're not going to take 2 levels of fighter to be able to heal yourself and take extra actions, and
that's the thing. Like in that game, like you have your one profession, which is your class, and that's what you have. You don't change classes ever in that one. And your class determines basically what you apprenticed in, and then is the cost of things for you. So like a mage is going to have a whole heck of a time to try to pick up learning how to use a longsword, but you can do it if you spend the development points on it. Just as a fighter could attempt to learn spells, but it'd be really, really hard for him.
Yep. Just like our
so is chess a crunchy game?
Absolutely not.
Is Go a crunchy game?
I don't know. I've never played Go, but
I would say
I would assume no.
Yeah. Like there's so many different ways to play that game. Like they're still discovering new ways to play it.
Fair enough. Magic the Gathering is a crunchy game.
Yeah,
for me, and maybe I use it wrong in our conversation, but the complexity of rules doesn't make a crunchy game to me. It's when you have so many different decision points to make and very little design work to kind of like play through that option of the game. It's kind of so like chess to me isn't a crunchy game. I wouldn't even consider Go a crunchy game, even though Go probably would qualify in my mind. Chess rules are really complicated, but at the same time, playing it is, there's a good broad range of how you play it and things to learn, tactics to learn. You can discover and get better as you go through. But for like 5e and everything like that, it's almost like a solved game where like exactly the build you have to be if you want to be the best at something, and there's no other like alternatives to it. So like I don't know, I felt like
it's very definitions.
Yeah, but 5e is because even though it may be quote unquote solved that's only for the people that are deep into it. For people that play more casually, it's not really solved. And even then, it's still that because there's a rule for everything in 5e. People are always looking at, even experience tables often look up a rule or have to read the, like, well, let me look at the spell description to see if that works. It's not hey, let's figure that out, or like, let's make a ruling on the fly. It's, well, let's see what.
That's not a crunchy game to me. That's just a free-flowing game. For me, a crunchy game is something like, Gloomhaven, where like we have all these decisions and it gets bogged down with all these like, okay, we're gonna do this, but the rules all say these very specific things. You have to know them all, and then all of a sudden a rule pops up, like someone can fly through an enemy space, and we didn't know that, and now everything's broken. It's just like that game to me is super crunchy. It's hard to play. It's difficult to go through it. But I don't consider D&D a crunchy game because, like, literally at any point in time, I can just go, nah, that doesn't work that way. Move on.
Yeah, except for in D&D, there's going to be a rule that says it does work that way.
Yeah,
not always.
Very, very rarely in 5e.
Often. Yeah, that's the thing about games that have very defined rules. In Pathfinder, like, you run into that a lot. Like, oh, there is a rule for this. Actually, it's not just a hand wave, or I've decided that this works. It's
Yeah,
like,
but
nope, there's a rule that
one
says.
of the core tenets of D&D is that the DM makes the game, makes the rules, and you're not bound by the rule book all the goddamn time.
But you are, because you're always complaining to us about how we say, oh, you can just house roll this and this, but you're like, I run Adventurers League, I can't do any of that.
But that is different. So like I was playing my game and one of my guys ran and jumped off a statue and he was going to fall to his death. But he's like, can I, as part of my turn when I start this, use my bonus action to Misty Form before I hit the ground? Okay. There is no rule that lets that happen. Okay. Now, if I'm gonna go by raw, and there's an option that I could make as a DM to say, okay, by raw rules, you immediately fall in a nanosecond, 200 and something feet, and die. You have no chance to do your bonus action during your turn during this move. But that's not how D&D is built. It kind of lets you do what you want to do in a way. And so I can basically choose to basically say, hey, yeah, you can, but maybe there's a save modifier or something I added. I still control the world in D&D. And I know it can with the other games too, but I don't know. That to me is the difference between a crunchy game and a non-crunchy game. You get into a crunchy game where like everyone is sitting there going, okay, let's track our rations, let's track how many days of travel we have. The monotony of everything that has to happen on a daily basis to get through a scenario, that's what makes it crunchy to me. And that's kind of like I feel playing Gloomhaven and stuff like that, where like everything is tracked.
Yeah, but Gloomhaven is a board game. Like it hands down is a board game. D&D is very, very similar to a board game, but it's not quite there. It is a role-playing game.
Right, but what I'm saying is like, that crunchiness, that deep dive into like how you guys are playing the game and how you guys are getting through every single step. Like Shadow Dark to me is kind of crunchy because that stuff happens. You have to track that torch every single hour or it goes out, everybody dies. And I know you guys disagree with me, but that's to me is what makes a crunchy game.
You don't track the torch. The GM does.
Yeah, it's also a like
no, the players have to. They have to know when that torch is about to go out.
No, they don't get that. They know that when it lights, they got about an hour. They've got maybe an hour, and if the DM wants, he can make it a little more or a little less. Then there's also
every game of Shadow Dark I've played, some fuckers had a goddamn timer in front of them. You know.
When I run it, I keep a timer, but maybe it's a little off. Maybe but that's in the rules of Shadow Dark. So
yeah, it literally says that, and Kelsey actually said that too. Like she's never done just exactly an hour. It's always plus or minus because you know what? Torches aren't mass produced in Shadow Dark. They are torches made by somebody who makes torches, and sometimes they burn for an hour. Sometimes they burn for an hour and 6 minutes. Sometimes they burn for 54 minutes.
like I said, but still to my point is that you have to track things when you have to get that into that nitty gritty of tracking all these things, the rations and like how much weight I have on me. Like that's when it becomes a crunchy game to me. It doesn't matter about the rules and the rule
That's
system.
D&D. D&D
That's
has
not D&D. I've never once made my players track how much weight they have unless they're
pump your brakes. Listen, nobody's making you track your fucking weight, and it's dumb if you need to. But let's just define crunchiness, because this is where you guys are all getting hung up on it. Crunchiness, at least according to the interwebs and consensus thereof, refers to the complexity and detail of the game's rules and mechanics. A crunchy TTRPG has a large number of rules, modifiers, and systems that players and GMs need to consider when playing. This could include things like detailed combat rules, character advancement systems, and a wide array of options for character builds. I would say Pathfinder, Pathfinder 2, D&D 3.5, very crunchy games. I'm not sure I consider D&D 5e crunchy. It's crunchier than, say, an OSR game, but there's levels of crunch. Like Pathfinder first edition, crunchiest fucking game I've ever played.
Yep.
Absolutely, hands down. There's like so many volumes of books of feats and like perks and abilities and multi-classing and different builds that you could do, and it was great for like wanting to like read through and in depth and everything. But a crunchy game is a game that you can't throw somebody into and they can just pick it up. And that's based upon the internet definition, and also I'd say probably my definition too. Like,
yeah,
I would never ever, like, for example, want to try to throw a bunch of 10-year-olds into a Pathfinder game. Like, if they've already role played before, fuck no.
I would absolutely do it, but I would only use the core book.
Sure, but then you're not really playing the game, Jay. You're playing the core book.
Yeah, which is that's the game. I mean, when we all started playing 3rd edition D&D, we had one book. We had the Player's Handbook. That was it. There were no other books that came out at that time. So you were still playing D&D 3rd edition. 5e has expanded a good bit with all of the other books that have come out. And, that's where you sort of get into the now there's too much shit. 3rd edition and Pathfinder, they had way too much stuff by the end of it. But yeah, those were very, very crunchy systems because you could do insane builds, and with all of those books, you could do fucking ridiculous amounts of stuff. All right. Anyway, I think that's enough on that. We all have, I won't say we have differing definitions. Chris has a differing definition than I do and Kristian does. Anyway, so what do we want to, Kristian, you had a thing, and then we'll get to Dan's.
All right. Yeah, I wanted to just talk about as hobbyists in this TTRPG space. I'm sure a lot of us do. We use house rules, and sometimes we, some of us are somewhat of collectors of different systems, even if we don't only rarely run them or may not run them. But a lot of that can inspire you with maybe you find a mechanic or a rule or something cool in that system, or that adventure book, that even if you're not going to run it, you find something that you can carry into other games that you do run, whether you use something as a house rule or you just use some piece of that. That's one of the things I always look for, is like, if I'm looking at a project, even if I don't intend to run that rule system, does it have something that inspires me or makes a cool, a mechanic I would love to adopt that I think can improve my games? So that was what I wanted to see, is does anybody else have any things that they bring into their D&D games, or things they bring into from D&D into other games that they run that they think is a cool mechanic, or something you've run across in another game that you've played that you enjoyed and think would make a good addition to other systems?
Just one. The critical hit from 4th edition.
Explain it to us. What is the critical hit from 4th edition?
So the critical hit for 4th edition was you deal your max damage with the ability that you're doing. Then you roll an extra set of dice and you add that to the max damage. Okay? So let's say you have your long sword and you're doing your attack, and you do your 1d8 plus 5. That's the damage. So you critical hit with that. You get the 8 plus your 5 for 13. Then you roll a d8 and you add that to the 13. So let's just say it's 4. So you deal 17 damage. That's it. It makes basically, it takes away the whole bullshit of like, oh, I rolled an extra, I rolled 2 1s on my firebolt. So yeah, I do 2 damage with my critical hit. No, the minimum you can do with the critical hit with firebolt is 11 at level 1. You know, it just worked. And why they didn't bring it over to 5th edition was because the critical rule applied to everybody. And if the monsters had critical hits the way the 4th edition does, then they would just absolutely fucking slaughter everything that's low level. A single crit would kill most players. And so I understand why they kind of like, you know, hung it back a little bit. But it's just annoyed the shit out of me that they did that. Like they couldn't have 2 crits, one for, you know, monsters, one for players. I don't know. But it seemed to work. It makes critical hits actually worthwhile. I don't know if other systems have different kind of fucking things, but you know, at least that feels better to at least do a decent amount of damage on a critical hit versus doing, oh, I did like 4. It's hard to sell. As a DM, it's hard to sell. Like, I'm sorry that your crit did 2 damage. You critically failed technically with your critical hit.
I agree. That's a better critical hit, and despite its deadliness, I think they should have just brought that. You get 3 death saves before you do. It's like a DC 10 medicine check to like stabilize somebody in 5th edition, like
or a healing word spell,
or a healing word. Yeah, you got options. Like, but let it be dangerous at low level. It makes it feel much better when you get the crit.
Yeah, that just, it always bothered me, and like I've even like right now, in my streaming campaign, I'll let my players. It said it in the session 0 notes, like you could roll another d20 whenever you critically hit, and if you do, you get max damage the whole way around. It's just full damage. Both dies are max and everything like that. I just thought I'd try something different. And no, everyone keeps forgetting about the house rule, which kind of goes back to my statement of like house rules don't fucking matter because people only play by the actual rules half the time. They forget to do that, and I don't know. It just always made me feel bad with how bad crits were in 5e.
Yeah, I mean, we anybody who's played enough 5e, you know, you've definitely rolled that 2 damage on your crit before. It sucks. We've all been there, so I think we all agree. Yeah, it's a shitty crit rule. They should have gone with the 4e one or the 3rd edition or any other one. For me, I don't use it in my 5e games if I even run 5e at this point, and I probably wouldn't, but it's a rule that I've seen popping up in a lot of these other games that I'm playing that I really, really like, and that is a roll to cast a spell. DCC does it, Shadow Dark does it, I'm pretty sure Pirate Borg does it also.
Rollmaster does it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, even a game from the 80s was doing this, and I don't know why D&D has never had this as a rule. Spellcasting should not be simple. It should be simple mechanically, but it shouldn't be simple for that character to do. Put a little bit of risk in there of roll the dice, got to hit this target number, and the target number could potentially be lower. That's fine, but you shouldn't be able to successfully cast every spell every single freaking time you try to do it. I know, like 2nd edition, they didn't have that, but it was still difficult to cast spells because they had the speeds, and then sometimes spells would be, it's casting next round. So yeah, I kind of miss that from my D&D games, and I want that back.
Yeah.
Then you have to get rid of the resource management of it.
Well, no, it's still resource management. I mean, Shadow, all of those still have resources.
You're double punishing players if you force that. So first off, you have to use a resource to cast a spell. Then you have to hope that your spell works as the next check. So that's two gates to go through.
But then a lot of them use the mechanic of when you successfully cast, you don't lose it.
Yeah.
Right, but now you're changing more things. So if you just add that to D&D, you're adding in a step in there where basically now you have your resources, now you have a check to see if the spell works, then you have a check to see if the spell actually works with the roll to attack and stuff like that. You'd have to change so much to get it to work.
Yeah, in fact, there is a system. Somebody built something. There's a supplement that somebody put out on Drive-Thru called Hardcore D&D or something like that. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, 5e Hardcore mode, and they replace spellcasting with this system of roll to cast. There's no attack roll because your roll to cast is your attack roll.
Yeah.
Just like Shadow Dark, your roll is everything. That's the roll. If there's a most spells don't have a save or anything because you're rolling to see if you did the spell. If you rolled, you did the spell. It does the thing it's supposed to do.
Yep.
But the only thing is the failure can lose it, and then the crit fail is the something bad happens.
Yeah,
which I love.
Yeah, that's the DCC. Oh no, I changed genders. Oh no, I became a demon. Oh no, my leg fell off. Yeah. Crit failing spells in that game can be really rough.
Yeah. So I'll bring up a couple here that I like. Or Dan, do you have one?
There's some minor stuff that I've brought in. Like before the 4th edition or the 2024 5e basically made it so that you can use potions as a bonus action. I had implemented in my game for the last few years just the ability to do that with an item, or I think I made the item so that you could actually use it as a move action, but you can only have so many potions in the item. And I also implemented I don't know where I picked it up from, but implemented the ability to use potions. If you basically take your full action to use a potion that's a healing potion or has a numerical value to it, you'd maximize it. And I thought that was nice because it's one of those things where we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but like people never use their damn potions or their consumables at all because they're afraid they're going to need it at some point, which they never do. And this is just kind of impressive on people. Like, you have potions, use them.
Yep, that's what they're for.
One thing that I think I might pick up, especially when I'm using large groups or having combats with large groups, because I typically run games that end up being a minimum of 6 people and upwards of 8 to 9. And doing classic D&D 5e initiative sucks. And I really liked Pirate Borg's way of doing initiative, which is roll a d6, 1 to 3, monsters go first, 4 to 6, PCs go first. Period. You guys, as the party, get to decide who's going to go first. So if you want the rogue to go first, you can. If you want the wizard to go first, that's the thing too. But it's simple, and essentially you have somebody different for each round of initiative. Roll the die, so the initiative changes round to round, but it's dynamic because it's not just, hey, everyone at the very beginning of combat, let's all 9 of you guys give me your initiative so I can write it down and then roll for all my monsters. And even because it got cumbersome, even on a digital platform with like Roll20, where I'm rolling 3 different types of monsters, but there's a bunch of different monsters. But then I have to add in the three, all the characters as well, and then make sure that I've reorganized the initiative in numerical order. But inevitably, somebody will forget to modify their initiative because they're standing close to the Watcher Paladin who had a +4 to initiative, and it's just one of those things where it's like, just simplify it. It does not need to be that complicated. And I will say that there's gonna be the 1 or 2 guys who are like, but my entire build is based upon me going first and having a +14 to initiative. I'm like, okay, cool. Whenever your party rolls the 4 to 6, then you can go first. That seems fine. I don't care.
That's why I really like D&D Beyond's Encounter Builder, because I build all the counters out ahead of time, and then I can just click a button to auto roll all the players' initiative and then auto roll all my monsters' initiative and it automatically sorts it all. Or I can have them roll their initiative individually and it just imports that roll over into the builder and go from there. It saves so much work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
No,
here's
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I'm with Dan. I like a very simple initiative system.
Same. That's actually one I am thinking about adopting for when I run Shadow Dark for the online sessions, because I just think it's easier than trying to keep track of everyone's individual initiative.
Yeah, and honestly, Kristian, like we have the big finale for my Rime with Frost Maiden game coming up, and we're gonna have all 8 people there in person. I'm gonna be running a
Yeah,
bunch of NPCs. There's multiple encounters. I'm just gonna use the Pyreborg initiative, and
do
if
it.
you guys
I love it.
win initiative, monsters go first. If they win, you guys can decide who's gonna go first whenever it's your all turn for initiative. But that way, like, there's also discussion during the initiative portion of its rounds change each time. The only thing
Yeah,
that have to basically work out is like when do the lair actions go off, which is just going to be just beginning of the round period. Lair action goes
yeah.
off
At the beginning or at the end or whichever one. Yeah, it just
because
goes up one
legendary
end.
actions just go after other people's actions, so it doesn't really matter when the initiative is.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I
Sounds
say
good
the
to me.
only thing I don't like about that is when I have a large group of people, having 8 players go, then let's just say 8 monsters go. It kind of feels like it's the game is weighted on player side and monster side. I do like interspersing monsters into the player's order of things. I feel like the game flows a little bit better and it helps players kind of keep more on top of things. I just so like whenever I have the 8 people, like I let them. I have a competing D20 roll, and I let the person basically pick who gets to go first if they win, and then basically I just go 2 players, set of monsters, 2 players, set of monsters, all the way around, and it just keeps the board moving. But that's just a personal preference, really. At the end of the day, no real
Yeah, and
reason
I
why.
can understand that, and I don't think I would run an entire game like that necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
Chris. I mean, maybe if I ran in person an entire game that had so many people, I think that it engages players more than just my initiative's not for another 25 minutes because there's 7 more people plus the monsters before I go again. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go take a smoke break and go order a pizza. And like at this point in time, like it's like, hey, if you guys actually, it also has people. I don't give a shit if like there's a party of 8 people, you guys all have very telepathic bond or whatever. You guys can make a plan on who's going to go first, and like, hey, don't go over there yet, Rogue, because I'm about to throw a fireball there. You know, I don't give a shit.
I
That's fine. That's great. Fucking work it out.
I did
I'm
in
just happy
fact
we're talking.
in a recent, not in Dan's game, but a different friend's game, in a very large combat where we're all 10th level. I took my turn. I got up. I went and made a whole pot of coffee, made a sandwich, ate half of the sandwich, came back, and it was still not yet my turn. And I had not missed anything because nothing had happened to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's just the worst.
So yeah, but here's the couple of rules that I found. These aren't all of them, but here's a few that I found. Like if you're playing 5e or any kind of game that does skills and has things like a modern D&D's proficiency bonus or even adding your abilities, I like level up 5e's advanced version of expertise, where instead of just doubling your bonus, so you're now just making ridiculous checks, you add a d4
Yeah.
to your expertise. You have an expertise die, and then if you get expertise in that skill again, instead of just being like, well, there's nothing else to improve, you get a different skill, or you do something else. Your die just goes up. So you go, oh, okay, well I got double expertise in perception. Now now I just add a d6 to the roll. Get it again? Oh, now I just bumped up the die to a d8.
I love
I
that.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
there were a lot of great things in Advanced 5e.
There's some really good stuff there, but that's one on the player facing side. This is one from our last week. Just we talked about Daggerheart. I like the Blaze of Glory. For instead of rolling death saves or rolling a death timer to see how much time you have before someone gets to you, I like the option to just choose. I'm going out in a blaze of glory. And a similar death thing I like from Dragonbane, I like their idea that you can rally a character who is dying to stand and fight, and they don't stop dying. Like they haven't been healed. That just means they can die on their feet. And I kind of like that idea that this you have your mortally wounded friend who might only have a D4 rounds left to live, but he gets to at least live those rounds, on his feet, and then he just, after 2 rounds, nobody's treated him yet, and he just drops dead. But but the player, from the player side, like you get to stay in the action instead of just like, well, I just kind of hang out here silently while other people do stuff. I like that kind of option. I think it keeps you engaged. There's still the level of danger because you can take more damage, which just makes your survivability even less likely. But at least you're still part of the encounter and part of the action.
Yeah, until you die.
Quite like that. Until you die. Yeah. But at that point, like you were already down and dying anyways. I'd rather be involved than just a lump.
Agreed. Yeah, no, that's a good system.
Like,
all right,
those were two I quite liked. Yeah.
Okay,
right,
well,
Dragon.
we're 45 minutes into this thing. Dan, the rest of the time, however long you need, is yours.
Oh man. Yep.
Dragons,
Okay,
dragons.
Back in June, I started on the Ecology of the Dragons, starting with the original Dungeons and Dragons. And when I started writing this up and researching, I was really just kind of trying to research Bahamut and Tiamat, and kind of their direct family, which is their long lost sister. But it kind of in order to really research Bahamut and Tiamat and kind of their evolution throughout D&D, you really have to look at the entire ecology of dragons. So I'm actually going to start back at the beginning and kind of I'll paraphrase and skip over the stuff about Tiamat and Bahamut. But so going back to the very beginning, first mention of dragons in this game, Dungeons and Dragons, was an original D&D book 2, Monsters and Treasures, 1974. We got the 6 varieties of dragons in that book, and those 6 varieties of dragons are your standard chromatic dragons and 1 metallic dragon. That 1 metallic dragon is gold, or as it was listed in that book, golden. And all of the chromatic dragons are chaotic. The golden dragon is lawful, because you didn't really have good and evil at that point. And the gold dragon is the one that actually has 2 breath weapons. It has fire and gas. And this is the way I discussed it last time, but it has like 3 or 4 silly pages on how to like basically subdue and enslave a dragon or sell it, or
Yep.
like there's an entire like multiple pages and like what the percentage chance is that when you get to the dragon's lair that the dragon's sleeping. Like it's kind of silly. But it's there, and that's what it kind of goes over. But the next mention of dragons isn't for another 2 years, and that's in Greyhawk, which is when you first see mention of Bahamut and Tiamat, but not actually their names. You just see the Dragon Queen, which is known as the Chromatic Dragon. It gives her a classic description with the 5 heads, 1 of each color for the 5 chaotic dragons, and they have the Dragon King, the Platinum Dragon that dwells in the great palace behind the east wind. Blah blah blah. He can change shape freely. Talks about his 7 golden dragons that guard him. He's the king of the lawful. It's the classic introduction to those 2 major NPCs. They are not gods at this point. They're just the king and queen of dragons, evil and good, respectively. Then when we hit 1977, the Monster Manual, and we start they start doing this weird thing in the Monster Manual where it kind of makes sense what they're doing, and I kind of glossed over this I think the last time, but I'm just going to go over it again because it gets a little weird. First off, you have some pretty awesome depictions of dragons in the first edition Monster Manual. Black and white depictions, but they're all very unique for the type of dragon that they are. And a lot of the motifs kind of continued on, like the classic gold dragon looks like your oriental dragon, where it actually looks like an ampersand in the image in the original monster manual. And the copper dragon has like almost a fin going up the ridge of its back. But in 1977, we expand the metallic dragons from just golden to include copper. We end up having silver. We end up having bronze. We end up having brass. So something they started doing in first edition monster manual, AD&D first edition monster manual, is they started including Latin names in parentheses after the dragon. So, for example, I guess if you know Latin, or like for whatever reason, like you want to be the nerdy wizard that happens to know about dragons, you would call a black dragon a Draco causticus sputum, which of course means dragons that spits caustic saliva. Which then the blue dragon is Draco electricus, which is an electric dragon. Then it gets weird when you get the metallics, though. It's Draco impudentus gallus, which means impudent dragon rooster, which means he's a cocky dragon. Draco Garrus Bronzo, which isn't actually Latin. It is kind of vaguely means it's you were a bronze dragon. Garrus doesn't mean anything. Chromatic Dragon is obviously just Tiamat, and this is the first time you see stats for Tiamat, and she changes from chaotic to lawful evil. And she rules the first plane of the 9 hells, starting in Monster Manual. Copper is Draco Kames Stabuli, which means the dragon came from the stables. I think somebody kind of missed their Latin a little bit, or didn't do enough research. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to mean, but I don't know. Copper dragons hang out in rocky regions and warmer climates, and are kind of selfish. I don't know. Gold dragons are Draco Orientalis Sinudux, which means the Duke of Eastern Dragons.
Well, that's a cool name.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. Green dragon is Draco Chlorineus Nauseus Respiratus, which of course is the dragon breather of noxious chlorine. So like all of the chromatic dragon names, like they kind of hit exactly what breath weapon they have. It tells you what you need to know about these fucking guys. Oh, we're gonna fight the blue dragon. He has an electricity breath weapon. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Not so much for the metallic dragons. They're kind of just making bullshit up for these guys. White dragon is Draco Rigidus Frigidus, which is the cold rigid dragon. They're gonna freeze you. Silver dragon is Draco Nobilis Argentum, which just means noble silver dragon. And Draco Conflagratis Horribilis, the dragon of horrible conflagration. So, anyway, that's first edition AD&D Monster Manual, basically where we get the classic dragons that everyone thinks about whenever they think about D&D dragons. It starts getting a little weird when you start. Every June, I discovered in Dragon Magazine, starting in 1978, there was a series of articles, or at least one article, usually several of them, on dragons, specifically on dragons. Essentially, it's their anniversary of dragons every June. So
it's like Shark Week.
Yeah, it's Shark Week. It's Dragon Week. So I really liked this issue. The first article is called Dragon Magic, and the Dragon, back when it's called the Dragon, in June 1978, Dragon number 15. So the first thing they go over, which I've read about in other places, I could pinpoint or tell you exactly where, but first off, the first thing they talk about is true name magic, which pops up in a number of different games, not just D&D. But they start talking about true name magic, and basically is that all dragons have a name with which they keep a great secret. No known power can force a subdued or even enchanted dragon to yield the secret, nor will commune spells or divine intervention even work. A full wish or legend lore will only give strong clues, but a limited wish would only even reveal the veracity of such previous clues. If a dragon's name is spoken, all works of that dragon's magic are immediately dispelled, and the speaker has the power to demand one and only one service from the dragon. which I thought was a really cool thing.
Yep. Better hope you
they
never
al-
make that dragon mad after that.
Yeah. Um, they also give a list of dragon spells. Like some of them are stuff that actually had not yet appeared in D&D. They weren't in the PHB yet. They weren't in Unearthed Arcana or anything like that. But just let me read off some of the names of some of these spells, and some of them I thought were quite interesting. See Invisibility was not a spell at this point in time. So they literally just get See Invisibility at first level.
Huh.
They have other spells like Evaluate Item, Charm Avians, Locate Lair, Magic Pointer, which I thought was fucking great. When faced by the opposition, this spell will point out the highest level opponent. The spell is not foolproof, however, has an equal chance of indicating anyone of equal level, at a 30% chance of pointing out an opponent one level lower, or 10% chance of indicating just a random adversary. So literally, they can cast a spell like a magic pointer goes over who to kill first.
I imagine the fucking Windows arrow.
Me too. It's like, okay, just mouse over the bad guy. Okay, I'm gonna get that guy first. The alarm spell is on this spell list. It's like the first time the alarm spell appears. Let's see here. Mirror image. They get mirror image, invisibility, blah blah, blah stuff that wall of wind. So wind wall is the first time that this appears. Basically describes this the same dimensions as a wall of fire, but arrows and corals passing through this hole will be blown away, as will man-sized or smaller flyers, unless a saving throw is made. So first appearance of wind wall. Let's see here. Control winds, first time that appears. They have some various altered versions of like your standard spells. Like hold person is hold mammal. But they have water to wine, wood to sand. Attack. This one's great. Attack other planes. So let's say some group is coming through there with etherealness, checking out your fucking lair. You can cast the attack other plane spells, and you can use your breath weapon to breathe on them.
Oh, that's so
on the
mean.
ethereal. Yeah, I thought that was great. I get haste. Oh god, there was one that allows you to basically conjure basically a humanoid to serve you. Turn magic, which is a sort of a draconic version of spell turning. Basically, they create a spell turning charm that they can use themselves or give to somebody else. So basically, like if you're in service of a dragon, like there's a number of different things, the number of different charms they can give you that basically gives you a fraction of their power that can help you out. Polymorph self. So basically, at this point in time, only I think Bahamut was allowed to polymorph, and then they introduced this list of spells, and they're like, oh yeah, you know what? Most dragons should be able to polymorph, unless you're like the dumbest of the dragons. Sure, you can polymorph. Why not? But there's also, oh my god, extend breath. So extend breath was kind of interesting. It basically allows you to. So in first edition D&D, it wasn't like a recharging ability of using a breath weapon. It was basically you used your breath weapon X number of times a day, and that was it. And it did as much damage equal to your hit points. So let's say you're a red dragon with 100 hit points. You just breathe on somebody to do 100 hit points. Let's say you're a red dragon with this spell, and you want to use all three of your breath weapons at the same time to make sure you kill this party. Okay. You just did 300 hit points to that via your breath weapon. Just immediately annihilate somebody.
You better hope your wizard has put up all of the fire protections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, I thought those were pretty cool. But really the best part of the article was definitely true name magic, and just kind of interesting the introduction of other spells. There's another note there that says, with rare exception, only gold and platinum dragons can use spells higher than 5th level. Little is known about these spells, except that there are often more powerful versions of the above listed spells. In addition, some 50% of red and bronze dragons and all silver and gold dragons will also be aware of human magic spells and may employ them as well. The Chromatic and Platinum Dragon may select from either list at will. The dragon spells have rarely been written on scrolls and will only be found in Dragon Lairs, even then only at 10% of the time. So basically, you can't just copy this spell to your spell book.
Yeah, that persisted through at least through second edition, where dragon magic was its own kind of thing that only dragons could do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the next mention of dragons or Bahamut and Tiamat was just in the deities and demigods book. They're not listed in there as stats, but under the non-human deities chapter, where you start getting like bugbear deities, centaurs, and all the elven deities and stuff like that, it simply says, note, the following beings from the monster manual and fiend folio should be treated as lesser gods, though they rarely have human worshippers. And under dragon, it says Bahamut, Tiamat. And of course, under there, you also have like stuff that you would probably consider as a lesser god: Demogorgon, Jubilex, Orcus, Asmodeus, Lolth, and so on. Okay, so let's skip ahead to Dragon Magazine 37, and that's going to be in May 1980. So in May 1980 is when you get the neutral dragons, which is the gemstone dragons, which I think I covered pretty well the last time. It's where we first get first off psionic dragons, and we learn of the ruby dragon Sardior, which is also called the Prince of Neutral Dragons, who dwells in a magical castle that roams the night sky high up in the atmosphere. He keeps his castle moving so that it always stays in Earth's shadow. And he's guarded by 5 Thanes, one of each of the various breeds of neutral dragons, all huge ancient dragons. Their names are Hrothil, Tithonus, Smargad, Charisma, and Alethios. And they all have psionics of some sort. So what I didn't talk about last time was the interesting breath weapons that these dragons have. So crystal dragons have a dazzling cloud breath, which twice per day they can temporarily blind anybody who's enveloped in it. It lasts for 10 to 60 rounds once they've come out of the dazzling cloud. The saving throw that succeeds only cuts the time in half. So even if you actually succeed, you're still blind.
And blindness in first and second edition sucked.
Yeah, and there's no blind fight in it first edition.
Nope.
Topaz dragons can dehydrate with their breath, drawing up to 3 cubic feet of hit points of dragon when directed against liquids, and against living creatures it has 7 to 12 points of strength damage due to dehydration. If you're reduced to 3 strength damage, strength points or less, you will lapse into a coma and die within 3 to 12 turns, unless a strength or raised dead spell is cast upon you. Emerald dragons have a sonic vibration weapon. They said twice per day you use a keening sort of voice or breath weapon that will set up a sonic vibration, knocking all affected creatures within hearing distance unconscious for 10 to 60 rounds. Those who make their saves are deafened for 10 to 60 rounds.
Sonic boom.
Yeah.
Yep.
So sonic boom. Sapphire have a different sonic vibration. Their sonic vibration, which disintegrates a number of hit points equal to the number of hit points the dragon currently has. Creatures not killed outright by the loss of hit points would survive, but with weapons, armor, and clothing all disintegrated. Only magic items would get a save.
Yeah, that's how you end up naked fighting.
Yep. Oh no, my full plate. Shit. Amethyst dragons have a shriek that acts exactly as a wail of the banshee. So that sucks.
yeah. It's a hear it and you die.
And Sardior, he has let's see here. He has both the shriek of an amethyst dragon and the dazzling cloud of a crystal dragon, in addition to like pretty much every psionic available, and knows all 3rd level and under magic user spells and all 3rd level and under druidic spells. So yeah, don't fuck with neutral dragons.
See, I remember I remember a lot of the neutral dragons from second ed and later editions. I don't remember them ever being that badass.
You probably didn't fight them for the most part.
No, but as a dungeon master, I've looked at all of
Yeah.
their stats and everything. I just don't remember them ever being quite that nasty. But
Yeah. So let's see here. And they also apparently all have telepathy. Why not? And they can
they're
all
psionic.
they can all also innately blink 6 times per day. But interestingly enough, they are smaller than normal. The rest of the dragons, all the chromatics and the metallics. So you get a +4 to save versus their fear aura. So because they're not quite as scary looking until they fucking breathe on you, I guess.
Yeah.
then blow up your mind with mind bullets. So anyway, that I thought that was interesting. So that's Dragon Magazine 37, which interestingly enough is like a huge drop on Dragon information before their annual, let's talk about dragons issue, which is the next issue, where we actually get full on dragon stats for Bahamut and Tiamat as lesser gods. And they, you don't fuck with them. Like they are, like unless you are like a ridiculously high level party, and even still probably going to die, you're not fucking with Tiamat or Bahamut. But in addition to that, they also introduce the brown dragon, the orange dragon, and the yellow dragon in this issue.
I make brown dragons.
Yeah, they're getting creative with the names, I see.
Yeah. Oh well, no, don't worry, Jay. Despite the fact that we skipped over the whole Latin thing that they introduced in the Monster Manual for all the neutral dragons of the previous issue, we do have the brown dragon as the Draco Auburnus Forestus, or the dragon of the Auburn Forest, whom is pure neutral, always lives in a forest or in a cave in a forest, and can shape change into small mammals like lizards and also lizards and birds. They have 2 breath weapons: fairy fire and lightning. Yeah, I guess it's your local forest dragon. Orange dragon, lawful neutral. They are always found in mated pairs and they're so loyal to each other that if one is killed, the other will pine and die within 3 plus a d6 days if they witness the death of the other. However, in the meantime, if they witness that dragon die, they basically act as if they're 3 age categories older, and whenever they start fighting. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Their breath weapon is a color spray. But it doesn't act like the color spray spell. It does a whole lot more. Obviously, it's somewhere between a color spray and a prismatic spray. Really.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's more like
they call it a color
prismatic.
spray. Yeah,
because prismatic spray is a nasty fucking spell.
Oh yeah, in every edition. And then we have the yellow dragon, which is chaotic neutral, breathes a cloud of cause disease or blindness, and can shape change into human form 3 times per day and often travel as humans in disguise. I don't know. There's not much on them, and they're kind of boring. I don't even know why they threw them in here, but they did. Then, like I said, we have the stats for Bahamut and Tiamat. Really the only things you learn from that you didn't learn in previous articles or the Monster Manual was that Bahamut's title is the Angel of the Seven Heavens, and Tiamat gains the title of Archdevil. And you get a note that says Tiamat and Bahamut's bodies will never remain on the prime material plane, even if they are killed. Now, onto the 3 new dragons I've proposed in the elevation of Tiamat and Bahamut to the rank of deity. Yeah, whatever. The next mention of dragons, we hit up June in 1981. I'm sure all of us are very old by then.
Yeah.
This is Dragon Magazine 50. It actually has several articles, and we have self-defense for dragons. Everyone's favorite foe gets a fighting chance. Basically, they say that dragons should be more formidable in melee combat, so a recommended increase in damage for melee attacks. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So most of us played through 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th, 5th edition, whatever, for dragons. And dragons, like, their breath weapon is dangerous in those later editions. But, like, really what you gotta watch out for is getting the claw, bite, wing buffet attack, tail slap. That's what you've really got to watch out for, right? Especially if you're like a squishy mage or a rogue or something like that. So it's interesting that they're trying to basically push for better melee attacks for them because, like, you just heard all the breath weapons that these guys have. Their breath weapons are gross. They will annihilate you, but they're really just kind of glass cannons if you look at their HP. Their HP isn't that much. But then again, it's first edition. Nobody's HP is that much.
I'm looking at the Ruby Dragon's stats right now. This is the equivalent of the Bahamut, or like it's the most powerful of the gym dragons. It has 96 hit points.
Yeah.
But that was a lot for early editions.
Oh yeah, it absolutely was.
But if their breath weapon does the equivalent of their total hit points, who's standing up to that in first edition?
Yeah.
Fucking
Nobody.
No
Like, even if you make your save, you're taking half. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody in the fighter's dead now. Cool.
Yeah, and the fighter has like 4 hit points left.
Yeah. So in the self-defense for dragons, I thought this was fucking great. They introduced the wing buffet attack, which, of course, we know was introduced in second edition on. Like, most dragons out of a certain age category have a wing buffet attack. So the reason why this guy comes up with the wing buffet attack is because he used a real-life example from a book called Dangerous to Man, a book by Roger Karras, whom wrote about fatal injuries to humans from animals, including several fatal injuries being inflicted by the wings of a swan. He said, basically, like, if you think about, like, when a goose is trying to scare you away or a swan's trying to scare you away, they're making themselves look big and they attack, like, kind of like wave their wings around. And apparently there's documented cases of fatal injuries from swans. Like, now think about if a dragon were to do such a thing. And it's like, I propose that we have a wing buffet attack. And that's basically his excuse for making wing buffet attacks for dragons.
A swan did it, so can the dragon.
If a swan can do it, why not a dragon? Dragon's 24 feet long at least. They also started upping their magic resistance, which is like, prior to this, like, their magic resistance was only okay. Now their magic resistance becomes 10% per hit die. So up to a maximum 90% magic resistance, which makes it actually very difficult to go fight a dragon as a spellcaster, because basically you're just on buffing duty at that point.
Yep.
Increase the saves of the dragons to be as a fighter or magic user, whichever is better. And essentially his introduction of doing the sort of blind sensibility for dragons, because up to that point they just had normal ass, like, infravision, and that was it.
With the invisibility spell.
With the invisibility spells, which nobody else had. So, but, like, that rogue sneaking around, like, Bilbo Baggins is going to steal your shit. But now they have dragon perception and blind sense, which is great. The next article in the magazine is True Dragons, because obviously at this point in time, there's probably some drakes that have been introduced and things that are not quite dragons. So now they start going over what's a true dragon, and they start adding. They essentially start, like, upping the level of dragon fear to basic sort of a terror ability. They start introducing, which types of dragons are actually able to shape change at which age category. And something I actually really like is basically they like, hey, obviously most DMs have run a dragon encounter, and sometimes the dragon encounter just comes off as just a by the book dragon encounter. What you want to do is you want to basically add special powers to make each dragon unique. And if they give some stupid excuses, like literally it says, special powers. The genes for most of a dragon's unusual powers are present in every dragon. Chromosomes may fit together in several ways, and few traits of this type are definitely dominant or recessive. So almost any power may show up in a newborn dragon, regardless of the parents' powers. I'm like, okay, seriously, you're going to talk about chromosomes, about dragons? But the special abilities on the random table is actually quite cool. So you have awareness, dragon's never surprised. Perceptions are 2 categories higher than normal for its age. Immortality, dragon can never die by normal means, only by a violent death. Double the dragon's magic resistance. Mesmerize, by modulations of the speaking voice, it basically can do a suggestion spell. This one I really liked, and I would probably implement at some point. The Pearl. The dragon's life essence or soul is housed in a large pearl. If the dragon is killed, it reappears at age 1 beside its pearl 2 weeks after its death, with its memories intact, however. On the other hand, if the pearl is crushed in the dragon, then the dragon immediately dies. Consequently, someone who holds the dragon's pearl can force it into servitude, though it's wiser to require a single task of the dragon in return for the pearl. I thought that was kind of cool.
It's a phylactery almost.
Exactly. It's phylactery. The dragon speed basically double the movement for its forward, and water. It can basically swim just as fast as it can fly. Then there's another article that's kind of funny based upon raising dragons. Like hatching is only a beginning. Raising a baby dragon, watch out for tantrums. It's a dumb article. And like a spellcasting ranger has better chance of raising a dragon and being recognized as his mother than like a cleric, and God, it just goes on. It's like, this is way too deep. Like, who's letting their characters raise a fucking dragon? I guess somebody's trying to do Dragon Riders of Pern or something at this point.
And there was the beginnings of Dragonlance right there.
Yeah. But anyway, that is that issue, and I thought had some interesting stuff in it. And then after that, we skip ahead to the Fiend Folio, which is where we talked about White Dwarf magazine a couple of several episodes back now. I think whenever we talked about the Githyanki where they first appeared. Well, the Fiend Folio basically gathered together all the White Dwarf stuff and kind of shoved it into one big book. So this is mostly all stuff written by people that would later be writing for Citadel and Warhammer. But before then, it was all kind of just donating to TSR. But what they kind of contributed in Fiend Folio is the Oriental Dragons, which I find interesting because obviously the Gold Dragon is the Oriental Dragon. So, But that said, there are other Oriental Dragons to be seen, and there is. Let's see here, we've got. There is Li Lung, the Earth Dragon, which doesn't look in the least bit like a dragon in this image. It is neutral, has no breath weapon, but can cause an earthquake with its abilities. It's the only Oriental dragon with wings, but it has a lion's body and a dragon's head with human features. I'm not sure the artist got the memo. It looks like it's still a dragon, a lion's head, and a lion's body. But that's the Li Lung. The Lung Wang, the sea dragon, which looks almost identical to a dragon turtle to me, is literally says the Oriental relative of the dragon turtle, with a turtle body, creased neck, and a head like the Sheng Lung. They rule large bodies of water, can breathe air. Have scaly command, which is we command any 4 to 40 creatures times its age level of the dragon, but does not have the ability of water fire, which we'll get to later. Panlung, the coiled dragon. Smaller, thinner version of the Shenlung. Panlung live in marshes and swamps. They have no tail spike, but if they succeed in grasping with their bite, they will, on each succeeding round, automatically bite and constrict even further. It looks basically just like a big snake. The Tianlung, the celestial dragon. They live high in the mountains and cloud castles, rulers of the air, usually yellow, wingless, and can fly. So basically the gold dragon. They have 2 claws of powerful bite and a cone of fire breath weapon. Again, the gold dragon.
Yep.
Shenlung, the spirit dragon, chaotic neutral. Most common wingless, long and 4-footed, able to fly via an inextractable magical organ within their brain. I don't know why that was necessary, but
didn't
so you
need
can
to
just
know
say
that.
they can fly. Yeah, claw and bite attacks with this, and have a tail spike, but they also don't have a breath weapon. But they can bless and curse and control weather and ice storm as spell abilities. They're also immune to poison, and no arachnid or arthropod can approach it. I don't know, man. I guess this is around the time that also like Oriental Adventures was being written too, so maybe this would kind of come up during that. The Yulung, which is called the Carp Dragon, which is the silliest. Like the image is, you guys.
It looks like a carp.
Yeah.
Yep, but it's pulling on that kind of mythology, so it makes sense.
But the story of it is actually kind of interesting. They're shy creatures that live in fresh water, has a dragon's head, 2 forelegs, and a giant carp's body or tail. Cannot fly, polymorph, or turn invisible. They have no breath weapon, and they only breathe water. They can emerge only awkwardly from the water for up to an hour. They have claw and bite attacks, but interesting, Interestingly, none are older than 101 years old, for as they reach that age, they metamorphose into another type of Oriental dragon. So basically, this is a baby Oriental dragon.
Huh. Does it say what type of Oriental dragon they turn into?
I don't think it does. It says
It's
So it
any
could
of
just be,
them.
yeah, it could be any of them. It's
it can
just
be any of them.
random.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
It's
says
on
equal
random.
probability of any type. It's on random. Yeah.
So all Oriental dragons are babies of they're they're that type of dragon for
They're
101
They're
years.
weird carp dragons. Yeah.
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 Hey,
So
real
that's
quick,
Orient-
on Oriental Dragons, did you guys ever see Dragonheart 2?
No.
They made a second one?
They made a second and a third one.
No,
So-
I did not.
In Dragonheart 2, okay, they need to restore the Knight's Code, the code from the first movie.
Oh,
And
God.
an Englishman who had fled to the far east comes to help this new baby dragon from the first from the egg from the first movie, or that was like the second movie. But anyways, he actually is an Asian Oriental dragon, and he takes his form and has to fight the new baby Draco dragon. I say all this and to let you guys know that they did not know what an Oriental dragon looked like in that movie, and it is just the weirdest. I sent a clip to our podcast chat on Discord, so you can watch the final fight scene between Draco and Griffin, the Oriental dragon.
Oh man.
Yes,
Can't wait to watch this.
classic Asian-inspired name, Griffin.
Hell yeah.
So same thing like a Scotsman playing an Egyptian with a Japanese sword.
You
type
shut
thing.
your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna get through the see if I can get here to the mid 80s, because it does get it gets weirder and weirder.
We are like an hour 15 right now. Just
listen here. I'm getting through this.
I told him he has as much time as he wants. Go for it.
That's right.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. And, cut it together. It's fine. Cut out your Dragonheart too.
No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So the next time we see dragons is in June 1982, when they finally admit, oh yes, our annual full-blown dragon section. And they begin it with the fairy dragon. First appearance of the fairy dragon, as far as I know.
Hooray.
So fairy dragons, which everyone knows and loves, are chaotic good. They're small. They're chaotic offshoots of the pseudo-dragon, and they live in peaceful, tangled forests, and they can become invisible at will. That hasn't changed. 100% of them use magic, and they have a euphoria gas breath weapon. They also know magic user and druidic spells. Later, you'll find out they aren't true dragons, technically, but they have age categories and everything like that on here. The next 2 pages, though, I was very surprised to see, and I'd never even heard of. The Steel Dragon. Draco Ferocis Carbo, the Coal Iron Dragon. Legends say that Ahi and Rahab are twins, that the Steel Dragon and Grey Dragon emerged from the same egg, but somehow grew up as total opposites. They apparently are indeed from the same hatch, and they are both known to be very powerful, and some say that if they were to fight each other, neither would live. But the truth of their origin is lost in antiquity. This may be just as well, for these 2 dragons are not known for their hospitality and are said to not look kindly upon trespassers. Okay, so we have the Steel Dragon, who's lawful good. His name is Ahi. Ahi, the Steel Dragon, is a loner. He lives high in the uppermost atmosphere on the Prime, in a castle that circles the Earth on the west wind. Bahamut was the east wind. Ahi is the west wind. He attacks with Claw, Bite, and one of 3 breath weapons: a cloud of poison vapor that causes damage and unconsciousness, scalding water, which causes damage and blinds, and a cone of vapor, which causes affected creatures to assume gaseous form, just like Bahamut. Casts magic user spells up to 6th level, just like Bahamut. In addition to this, Ahi's appearance to characters and other creatures is as a shifting, cloudy, dragon-shaped mass of vapor. Because of this appearance, any opponent attacking the Steel Dragon with a weapon will always miss his or her first attempt to hit. Yeah. So a unique dragon, only one of them. So you only have one platinum, 1 ruby, 1 chromatic, 1 gray, and 1 steel.
So I just want to. I know you'll end up getting to this at some point, either probably not tonight, but once you get into the 2E things. But that's very different than second edition Steel Dragon.
Oh yeah, I know it is. I know it is. The next one is the Grey Dragon, Draco Nox Diabolus, which is the Night Devil Dragon. He's chaotic evil. The Grey Dragon, Rahab, is hated by dragons as much as he's hated by all other creatures. The only living things around him are men, dwarves, and goblins that he has enslaved. He attacks with Claw, Bite, and another Claw due to his tremendous speed. He has a breath weapon that is a gas cloud that is super powerful charm spell that affected creatures will never again be able to attack Rahab or seek to do him harm so long as they live or breathe. It is only negated by remove curse. Those entering his cavern will find nothing but a large mound of blackness, for Rahab is hidden by a form of continual darkness. The spell is not affected by anything save continual light, which will only act as a simple light spell. In this darkness, Rahab has an AC of -5. If adversaries come close enough to the dragon, or if Rahab advances toward his foes, he may be able to envelop his foes in his darkness, thus blinding him, and he gets a +5 to hit each character so affected. He only casts 2 magic user spells per day, using no higher than third level spells. So yeah, that guy looks dangerous as hell.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, these are like supposed to be equivalent of like Bahamut and Tiamat.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For some reason, I don't know why. I have no idea where these guys came from. I can find no other lore of them up to this point. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I guess it seems like game-ending bosses to fight. I guess
they needed something for the article, and there you go.
And then they get it. Then they get a little more lighter on the next article, which is just evil dragon armors. Rules to create armor from evil dragon hides. Like, okay, cool. Then we skip ahead again to later that year, September 1982. The Missing Dragons, filling in the tints of the color wheel, which I'm not sure was necessary, but actually I do kind of like what they came up with. Like the lettering on these old magazines are great. There's three. Obviously, the 3 primary colors are red, blue, and yellow. Pairs of these colors can be combined to form the secondary colors. Red and blue is purple. Blue and yellow is green. Yellow and red is orange. And excluding black and white dragons, are form a mixture of every pigment. The latter, the absence of any pigment. Only 3 dragon types whose scales have pigments of the color wheel are mentioned in the monster manual: red, blue, and green. They, in the missing 3 colors, purple, orange, and yellow, together form the main part of the chromatic dragon overspecies. The origin of dragons is the subject of which can be found conflicting statements. According to the monster manual, Tiamat spawns all of evil dragon kind. Yet dragons can be found in mated pairs of the same color with young and eggs. Therefore, it seems that dragons kind come from 2 sources, from Tiamat or from their own kind. Why not a third source? So in the ancient past, the secondary colored dragons could have the product of matings between 2 different primary colored dragons. Ooh. Most of these matings would likely be the result of wizards' experiments, since dragons, being intelligent, would probably only see their own red, blue, or yellow species as beautiful or handsome. Nearly all such matings would produce no eggs or unhatchable eggs due to genetic problems. However, certain pairings together with sorcerer's potions and spells could result in the crossbreeds that were not only viable, but all able to breed true with each other, thus starting the secondary pigment branch of the dragon overspecies. So they reworked the orange dragon, but let's start with the yellow one. So yellow. According to color wheel theory, green dragons' parents were blue and yellow dragons. They lair in seashore caves or complexes of narrow gorges or high salinity pools and inland salt flats. And their coloring blends in with the yellows and whites of sun-bleached salt-encrusted sand and rock. They have a breath weapon that is of sodium chloride. And if they save, you suffer blindness a number of rounds equal to dragon's hit die. If your con is 10 or less, you also have to save versus poison, or you faint from the pain as you are basically breathing in salt. It's effectively basically dust of sneezing and choking. You will fall unconscious after 1 to 3 rounds.
Careful, somebody's going to want to fight you over that.
Not me. I'm gonna fight Kristian. He's lawful evil. That just sounds like an awful way to go. The orange dragon, mating the yellow dragon and the red dragon, produces the orange dragon. They have their breath weapon is a liquid sodium. This one's crazy. Which is expelled in a stream in a straight line in the manner of black dragons. Dull silver-colored stream of sodium oxide rapidly oxidizes when exposed to air, and so victims hit by it are drenched in the sodium. Exposed to the air, ignites like a napalm-like flame, doing damage equal to the hit points of the dragon.
Oh my God.
Furthermore, it will ignite in 1 to 3 rounds after covering a target. So basically, you spit on this stuff, it keeps fighting you for 1 to 3 rounds, and then you just burst into flame. Sodium that also explodes when it comes into contact with water. So a well-meaning friend with water might deal extra damage to everyone within a 15-foot radius because they're throwing water on the person as the person then explodes.
Oh my God! Better do your research ahead of time.
I mean, they're getting way too into chemistry at this point.
Oh yeah.
A common tactic of a orange dragon would be to basically strafe a nearby body of water, for example, near an adventurer's encampment, thus to cause an explosion. And then the purple dragon, neutral evil, which is a product of the blue plus red mating. Breath weapon is a bolt of high energy combination of fire and lightning, with victims taking damage equal to the dragon's hit points. Victim and anyone else standing in a 120-degree arc in front of the dragon's head are struck blind for 8 to 10 rounds due to the brightness of the beam, half duration when outside in daylight, or if you make your save. So, yeah, there's the rest of your color wheel in case anybody wanted to.
If you ever really want to do some wild and crazy shit.
Wild and crazy shit, yeah. Not done yet. Got a couple more. So remember I talked about true dragons a couple of issues ago. Now we get to something that's not technically true dragons, but they still kind of list them in the same manner. And this is in Dragon Magazine 74, June 1983. And they call them land dragons, wingless wonders of a faraway land. The Iraq, Drogus Amagia, which means absolutely nothing in Latin or any other language that I can find. But it like the best I could get, the closest thing that I can come up with is that it's a misspelling of Spanish and it means magic drugs. They're neutral, relative of true dragons with lizard-like bodies and stunted wings found in rocky areas. They're less intelligent than their cousins, but still quite dangerous. Breath weapons, a gas cloud that is nearly invisible and affects living creatures except the Iraq. Causes a lack of oxygen and 1 hit point per round, and it increases by 1 hit point per round. So you take 1 hit point the first round, 2 hit points the second round, 3 hit points, blah blah blah, until it expires. It's kind of weird. It also reduces your combat effectiveness of spells, which is also strange. The next one is the Scintillating Dragon, which I think becomes in second edition the Radiant Dragon, but I haven't gotten that far yet. And again, it's another wingless dragon, and it's the Drogas Radiatus, which I assume is meant to translate into Radiant Dragon, but who the fuck knows? Another neutral dragon, radiant land dragon, iridescent and luminescent scales with a soft glow, entrances those who look upon it. Breath weapon is scintillating beam of energy, 10 feet wide and equal length to the dragon's body length times 5. And half the damage manifests normally, up to 12d6, but remainder of which takes place over the course of the next 2 days, like radiation, where in which you lose 1 to 3 strength points per day. Non-magical healing from the wounds don't begin until the 4th day after the infection, and magical healing only heals half until then. Worst effect of the ray, however, is the short of the use of regeneration spell or limited wish. Not all the damage will heal, and you suffer permanent hit point hit point damage, and your strength damage will eventually return. So essentially, you get affected by literal radiation.
Yep.
Which is one way. I guess it's one way to do it. And then you have night dragons, not to be confused with shadow dragons. Also known as the Drogus Retinos, which is the blinding dragon. Neutral evil, black scales with gray streaks, has nocturnal hunting habits, never encountered during the daylight. Has superior infra and ultravision and weak to the normal spectrum. Can stand perfectly still, 90% undetectable in darkness. God, I don't miss those percentages from first edition. That was a bad way to do moving silently in stealth. Breath weapon is a bright beam of light that can blind people as per the cause blindness spell. and making a character sightless for 2 days unless magical aid is rendered. If you fail the save, however, you're just permanently blind. So this isn't even a real dragon, but like if you make your save, you're just blind for 2 days.
Oh my god! Once again, blindness fucking sucked in those editions.
Yeah. Then we have an article by good old Ed Greenwood. This one is for the Electrum Dragon, and he gets better at writing these later because this one is, I don't know, it just feels phoned in for me. The Electrum Dragon is called the Draco Magus Electrum, which is the Electrum Magician Dragon. Neutral good, rare, solitary, dwells far from civilization, breath weapons unique, unstable gas emitted in a cone that causes enfeeblement that lasts for a turn, confusion for 9 rounds, or both. All creatures must save twice versus the breath weapon. Begins life able to cast Detect Magic, Read Magic, and Identify. And a very old one can cast Dispel Magic twice per day. And they also gain a number of spells based upon their age, basically up to cast up to 4th level. It's supposed to be like the spell casting goodly wizard dragon. But I will say he kind of begins his ecology of type articles here because he actually includes like reproduction. And he says every 100 years the female produces 1 to 4 rubbery foot-long eggs a year after mating. So, which prior to this, like there is nothing about how these things reproduce, or as the previous article said, like originally we said that all the evil dragons spawned from Tiamat, but then obviously they were mated pairs. So which is it? So, Ed Greenwood's trying to answer questions that I guess keeps nerds up at night.
Superman would win. Batman would win. Yep.
Dragons have rubbery 3-foot-long eggs. Obviously, Ed Greenwood said so. Anyway, so next time we hit anything up, it's in the Monster Manual 2, where it gets again pretty weird. They reprint the fairy dragon. And then the span of 2 pages, they basically have the same fucking dragon. It's the Cloud Dragon and the Mist Dragon. I've read through this twice. They're basically the same goddamn dragon. I don't know why they did 2 of them.
Huh.
One of them, the Cloud Dragon later in Forgotten Realms becomes the quote-unquote Storm Dragon, and it gets more like lightning abilities. But it's a neutral dragon that basically can turn itself into a cloud like Windwalk, and you can't attack it until it stops being a cloud. And the Mist Dragon is pretty much the same thing, except it lives in a different area, closer to the ground.
All right.
Like, I don't know why this.
Guys,
really
the Mist Dragon is Rydia's mom. Don't kill her.
Then tangentially related, just before the section on dragons in Monster Manual 2, you have the Dracolisk, which is a cross between a black dragon decided to bang a giant basilisk, I guess. It literally said to be the offspring of a rogue black dragon and a basilisk of the largest size. The results in a deep brown dragon-like monster that moves with quickness and can fly for a short period and can spit a stream of acid and petrify any opponent that meets his gaze within 20 feet.
Oh my god! That's
a rough ass monster to end your party.
Oh yeah, they've at that point I think they've kind of jumped the shark or jumped the dragon, as it were.
Yeah, like I mean seriously, like you guys after we're done with this, you guys need to go back and look at the Cloud and the Mist Dragon. And you tell me what the fucking difference is between the two. That said, though, at the end of the list of dragons for Monster Manual 2, the Shadow Dragon.
Hey, there he is, finally.
There he is. Neutral evil, nocturnal, subterranean, found on planes of dimness such as Shadowland. Because apparently Plane of Shadow is a thing. Shadowland. In the Huddle House. More on that later. That's how you level up. The female lays, and this must have been written by Ed Greenwood, female lays a clutch of 5 to 8 eggs in a dark place, and the first one to hatch quickly devours the others. Fucking metal. All Shadow Dragons can hide in shadows as if they were a 10th level thief. They can only be harmed by magic weapons. Shadow Dragons appear as worm-like dragons. Breath is a cloud of darkness, 40 feet long, 30 feet wide, 20 feet high, and it blinds those it comes into contact with and lowers their life energy so as to leave them only 25% of their vitality, i.e., level or hit dice. 50% if you make your save. So you're a 12th level fighter fighting this guy? Nope. You made your save? Oh, sure. You're only a 6th level fighter now. And it lasts for as many turns as the dragon has age categories. And correct me if I'm wrong, turns in first edition was 10 rounds.
10 minutes. Right? Yeah,
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
That is correct.
Yeah. So, yeah. You fight a baby shadow dragon, you just had your fucking your levels cut in half, or you're only 25%. Although there's something at the end of it there. It says spells will be lost permanently from such exposure until relearned or regained normally. Does that mean like rememorized, or like
Yeah.
because the level loss isn't permanent if you survive the encounter? So
Yeah. The way I would understand that as a game master is when you get your levels back, you still have to re-memorize the spells that were
okay.
lost.
All right. That was a little confusing to me, but yeah, Shadow Dragon, serious business. You don't want to run into that in the Underdark.
No.
That is the end of your party. The next one is another June issue. It's June 1984, and it's kind of a weak article. It's just called "Dragons and Their Deities," and it's basically, I thought it was like, oh, we're going to introduce other dragon deities, and like I read through it, and like it's not. It's just tells you what the holy symbol for Tiamat and Bahamut are, and that dragons also have clerics sometimes, but they can't
Oh.
summon, turn, or destroy undead. But they can call for divine intervention from their home plane.
Yeah.
I don't know. And this is the article I want to end on. We haven't really touched on it yet, but another magazine edition, in addition to Dragon, and Dungeon, which was kind of going along at the same time as Dragon was, which is only for dungeon masters, primarily filled with monsters and
Dungeons.
adventures, dungeons, obviously. And I've skimmed through it. We're not really missing much as far as to the dragon ecology from there, but and Polyhedron was another magazine, and this one was kind of going along with the RPGA, which was based the precursor to Adventures League and all the other things that people play at cons and at game stores to basically level up their characters. So Polyhedron 29, April 1985. It is called The Ecology of Tiamat the Dragon, aka Why She Ain't So Tough. And it is a short story written about a drunk ass fighter that is claiming and boasting to everybody in the tavern that he has killed Tiamat. Not only has he killed Tiamat, he's killed several Tiamats. And I highly recommend reading it. It's on page 25 in this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the entire thing like is this epic this epic fighter talking about how many Tiamats he's killed, and it ends with him ordering another drink, but he's really rude to the person who's serving him, who just happens to be Bahamut, who's shape changed, who then turns him into who fucking disintegrates him at the very end of the end of the story. It is fantastic.
Which magazine? It's Polyhedron magazine number
Polyhedron magazine number 29. But I'm just gonna read the first couple of paragraphs so you guys can get a little snippet here. Yeah, I killed her. Feargal, the all-noxious, bellowed between gulps of Bohemian loose juice. Bunches of times. Even got one parked outside. One, expostulated Greenhorn the Dim. You mean there's more than one chromatic dragon? Where you been, boy? Feargal hooted. Shoot, there's thousands. Every tin horn fighter worth his plate's killed at least one, ain't you? Greenhorn stammered. Well, no, sir, I haven't, but... you haven't lived, boy? Why, I knock off once a month, at least. Paladin mine, he knockoff gets 3-4 a week, probably. Of course, he cheats. He got one of them scrolls of protection from breath weapons of dragon or something like that, and he got that protection from evil he's got. Sir, I don't understand. There's more than one Tiamat? It just goes on from there. It is quite funny.
I love it.
And like the image is just like a drunk fighter with like a Viking horn and a battle axe leaning against the wall, and behind him is literally like the monster manual entry for the chromatic dragon.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Plastered to the wall. But we'll end on that because I want to pause there because we're about to get into Dragonlance territory, and that gets even deeper in the dragon lore and completely changes how dragons work. At least some dragons work.
Sort of codifies things a little better.
Yeah, it does. Because like as the dragon articles on dragons obviously continues, like dragons get more and more and more powerful, and it amazes me the how blunt a lot of the writers are in the Dragon magazine, and they're from various writers. Some people you've heard of, some people you've never heard of, but all of them basically complain and whine and moan about how their players all have the monster manual and know the fucking stats for dragons.
I mean, yeah.
So it's like, so here's how you do it, and so they don't know the stats. So if they complain, be like, you know what? I use Dragon Magazine number 29, and it's a randomly rolled ability, blah blah blah.
Yep.
But yeah, it's man, there's a lot on dragons.
I mean, yeah, we got to be pushing close to 2 hours at this point. Like that's
seriously, I'm not even through first edition AD&D yet.
Yeah,
and
it's an obscene amount.
There's an obscene amount. And we have, like, obviously we've established all of the classic dragons, all the standard metallic and chromatic ones that you've heard of, some weird ass chromatic ones you have not heard of. Super dragons, obviously, the ones that are actually gods, which is Tiamat and Bahamut, but Sardi are the prince of the neutral dragons, and we have Ahi and Rahab, which is just one-off steel and gray dragons. I don't know. They're just kind of in there. I don't know. I don't even know if they reappear as actually with those names later.
Unlikely.
Around this time, and I haven't really covered it yet at all, but Ed Greenwood's really getting into his groove with writing an extensive amount of information for the Forgotten Realms, and he starts soon after this publishing a different dragon, like named dragon, in its story in Dragon Magazine almost every month for about 4 years.
Wow. Yeah, those are great.
They are in fact great. I'm not going to go over all of them, but there's a couple of them that I want to highlight, and they're really cool. It really brings, like, the fear of dragons to Forgotten Realms. Like,
as if those shadow dragons aren't enough to do that already.
Yeah, it literally, I mean, like, the Forgotten Realms, like, in first edition, actually begins with what is it called? The Flight of Dragons in 1356. Like, that is the beginning of, like, when PCs are able to start playing first edition Forgotten Realms in 1987. So, of course he wants to explain all the dragons of his world, and it also kind of coincides with when the Crystal Shard ends and Icing Death is slain by Dristaward and things like that. So, like,
well, yeah, and Mithril Hall had been taken over by a shadow dragon prior to all that.
So there's a lot of really cool information. Ed Greenwood really expands upon it.
Yeah, you may even want to do it, where you separate this thing into do Forgotten Realms one time and then do Dragonlance the next, rather than trying to lump it all together. Because
I might do that. I'm gonna take a few more weeks to kind of delve into my research, but I'm looking at my research and I've got probably 15 pages of stuff that I've kind of highlighted and made notes on and read through. I've read copious amounts of dragon info at this point, but
I love it.
That's where we are, and we will come back to the ecology of the dragons for sure.
Yep, here in a few weeks.
Yeah, but
all right.
Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we're out of here. Bye, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Dragons.